morning, everybody. I'm Reverend Jay, and a special welcome to everybody, especially if this is your first time in the service. There'll be acknowledgement of you later in the service, but in the meantime, sit back and enjoy this wonderful community, this wonderful service. We are a community that embraces all faiths, cultures, and orientations, and open up to prayer as a way to allow God to come through us, that God that is within us, that is always revealing itself in perfect and beautiful ways. And in this, we acknowledge our ministers and practitioners who hold prayer for us during the service, as well as hold prayer for us during the week for requested prayer. You'll notice practitioners in our congregation who are wearing their white stole. We always have one practitioner who is in the back corner here under high watch. That's Taliba this morning, who is holding that prayer for us during the service, and one of our practitioners who's on platform who leads us in affirmation in our opening prayer in just a minute, and that's Michelle Lang. So let's give our practitioners a round of applause. We also welcome our music director, Diego Garcia. And Ryan's back on sound. Well, as we have a video technician back there that's Ralph. So
This week, Reverend Jay asked me to choose a song based on what is nationally Hispanic Heritage Month and locally Latino Heritage Month. The difference being that Hispanic it assumes that the lineage, one's lineage is from Spain. And as we, look around into the great diversity of this country and of Latin America, we see that people are coming from all over the place also. And so Napa College actually is they're at the forefront of finding that newest and most current language to really express the truth of everyone. So they're calling it Latino Heritage Month. And so Reverend Jay asked me to pick a song. So I looked, and there were so many great messages. And I thought because of today and because of what's going on in our world, that I'd share this song by, and note the diverse name, Alejandro Lerner, who is from Latin America, but he has a German last name. Because, we're all in this together. So he wrote a song back in 2003 called To Change the World, Cambiar el Mundo. I'm going to tell you a little bit, it's in Spanish, but I want to tell you just a little bit of it in English, give you a rough translation. You can change the world in an instant. You can change your path, and all you have to do is want to. If you look within you and you align yourself with your feeling, the universe will bring you your dreams. To change the world begins with you. Puedes cambiar el mundo tan solo en un instante. Puedes cambiar el rumbo si quieres que eso pase. Puedes mirar adentro tu sentimiento. El universo traerá tus sueños. Cambiar el mundo que empieza por ti. Empieza por ti. Verás que los colores son muchos más brillantes. Verás con otros ojos que hay magia en todas partes. Arriba y adelante se ven los horizontes. Si el sol también renacen los hombres. empieza por ti, empieza por ti. Si se renueva la esperanza, si te convences que te puedes cambiar, si quiero el cielo nuevo, empiezo yo primero y elevo la balanza para la humanidad. Cambiar el mundo empieza por mí, empieza por ti. Puedes cambiar el mundo tan solo en un instante. Puedes cambiar el rumbo si quieres que yo pase. Puedes mirar adentro tu sentimiento. El universo traerá tus sueños. Cambiar el mundo empieza por ti. 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 Empieza por ti.
So what's interesting about today is while it is a sacred day to remember September 11th, I'm continuing the theme that was started by Reverend Julie last week of looking at Dr. Seuss and the wisdom of Dr. Seuss. And the theme is truer than true. And how can something be truer than true? Well, the things that we perceive, the things we experience, there's a deeper truth in it at all times, and that's a spiritual revelation that's happening. And although Dr. Seuss was whimsical and fun and poetic in his stories, he always had a deeper truth in all his stories. And that's true of the book I'm going to look at today called The Sneetches, that in it there's a phrase called stars upon thars. And so that's the title of today's talk. Stars upon thars. And it was Dr. Seuss's way to look at discrimination and racism. He wrote it in the early 50s. And the idea of it was that there were certain Sneetches that had stars and certain ones that didn't. And that the ones that had stars upon theirs thought they were better than the ones that didn't. Now, it's not accidental that Dr. Seuss chose a star because he was writing in the early 50s, right after World War II, and the stars the Jews had to wear in Germany to mark them as being Jewish. And of course, that was a sign of inferiority according to Nazi Germany. And so this was, in this book, a superiority, but the truth is, it's neither. It's just a difference. And it's the differences that we experience both in terms of religion, in terms of race and culture, orientation, gender. It's these differences that waken us up, that we don't want to go back to sleep. That these events in our lives, this diversity we experience, is something that enlivens us and opens us up to the greater truth that's coming up that's truer than true. There's a story of a man who was out running errands, and his wife called to him and said, "Oh, be careful about driving because I heard that there's somebody driving the wrong way on I-90. And he said, I know, but the problem is, I'm on I-90 right now, but the problem is it's not just one of them, it's hundreds of them. So events in our lives need to waken us up to the greater truth that we could be the one that's misplaced. The one that needs to turn around, the one that needs to shift. And we believe here that it's a shift in consciousness, in thought that we do first, and then other things can result, other things can open up. And so it is the determination we have from experiencing this diversity is to waken up in our consciousness and our thoughts so that we can help, especially collectively, create this shift in consciousness. I love what Rumi had to say about waking up. He said, "The breezes at dawn have secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask yourself what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep." When we feel fearful, anxious, concerned, or we experience some discomfort with a conversation or a situation, we want to draw in. We want to close off, but that is going to sleep. Instead, we want to open our hearts and find the greater truth. That's the only way we're going to know a greater truth, to find out what's really going on. What's truer than true is to open up and experience that to a greater way. So let me tell you this story about the Sneetches. It's really a clever little story, that's a children's story that has a lot of truth for us as adults. So now the star-belly Sneetches had bellies with stars. The plain-belly Sneetches had none upon theirs. Those stars weren't so big, they were really so small. You might think such a thing wouldn't matter at all, but because they had stars, all the star-belly Sneetches would brag, "We're the best Sneetches on the beaches." I just love the rhyming, don't you? With their snoots in the air, they would sniff and they'd snort. "We'll have nothing to do with that plain-belly sort." And whenever they met, they were out walking, they'd hike right on past them without even talking. When the star-belly Sneetches went out to play ball, could a plain belly get in the game? Not at all. You could only play if your bellies had stars, and the plain belly children had none upon theirs. When the star-belly Sneetches had Frankfurter roast, or picnics, or party, or marshmallow toast, they were never invited, the plain belly Sneetches. They left them out cold in the dark of the beaches. They kept them away, never let them near. And that's how they treated them year after year. Then one day, while the plain-belly Sneetches were moping and doping all alone on the beaches and just sitting there wishing their bellies had stars, a stranger zipped up in the strangest of cars. "My friends," he announced with a voice clear and clean, "my name is Sylvester McMonkey McBean. I've heard of your troubles. I've heard you're unhappy. I can fix that. I'm the fix-it-up chappie. I've come here to help you. I have what you need. My prices are low. I work with great speed. And my work is 100% guaranteed. You want stars like a star-belly Sneetch? My friends, you can have them for $3 each. Just pay me your money and hop right aboard." So they clambered inside. The big machine roared. It clonked, it bonked, it jerked, and it burked. It bopped them about, and the thing really worked. When the plain-belly Sneetches popped out, they had stars. They actually did. They had stars upon theirs. Of course, you can imagine what happened when they came out. The original star-belly Sneetches were not happy at all. And they complained because they were still superior, but they couldn't tell they were superior anymore. But Sylvester McMonkey McBean had a solution. He had a machine that took off the stars. So they lined up to get the stars off. And of course, this went on and on and on, and he kept charging them money. They kept paying money. They kept running through until neither the plain belly nor the star bellies knew whether this one was that one or that one was this one, or which one was what one or what one was who. Of course, McBean, finally, they ran out of money, and McBean left because there was no one else paying him money. And he laughed as he drove in his car on the beach. "They will never learn. No, you can't teach a Sneetch. But McBean was quite wrong, I'm quite happy to say, that the Sneetches got really quite smart on that day. The day they decided that Sneetches are Sneetches, and no kind of Sneetch is the best on the beaches. That day, all the Sneetches forgot about stars and whether they had won or not upon thars. And hopefully we've learned that. I know it may seem like an obvious thing, and yet it's a reminder this diversity we experience is the wake-up call, the recognition that consciously we are aware and we seek to bridge a gap between people, between cultures, races, orientation, genders, whatever, or in our experiences, that we consciously seek to bridge that gap. And it is this diversity that wakens us up today in three ways. And the first way I'd like to say is that it awakens us to our oneness. It awakens us to a recognition that we are more than this body, that we were created in the likeness of God. Now, in this center, we don't believe that God has form, so we weren't created in his likeness. He's definitely is not some white dude with a beard up on a cloud up there. Instead, we believe the Spirit is all around us and is consciousness, and that's the likeness we were created, and that's the common thing we have among all people, all life, is this conscious energy, this spiritual understanding, this recognition, this life that we are, this sacred life, and that's what we have in common. And in form, we have all differences that we are. We are connected in all ways, and yet we are all different. And thank God, what a boring world this would be if all the flowers were the same, all the trees were the same, and all the people were the same. And it is diversity that we celebrate and love. You remember when you were a kid and the crayons you pulled out and there was a flesh-colored crayon? Didn't you question that a little bit? Really, if you were seeking flesh crayons, it'd be a variety of colors, right? There's even a company that was come out with a product called People Colors, and there's like 40 colors in there. And even those, you could take and blend them some, right? To get the exact shade, you'd have to look, okay, let me see, what is that shade? Because we're all shades. There was a YouTube program that was talking about bringing people together that had very racist viewpoints. And they're racist based on cultures and color of skin and different things like that. And they did DNA profiles, and what the people realized is they had, part of their DNA profile was part of the DNA of people that they had discrimination views, racist views about. And it opened them up to realize that we are a mixture of people. And we become more so every day. No longer can there be a form which has 3 or 4 boxes for race. Even for gender, you need many boxes these days. For cultures, that it's not just one box. People are forced to check one box, but really, you can check many boxes on that level. And it's this diversity that we awaken to, and the greater truth is this consciousness, this life, this one life we are all part of. And it is a reminder of that we're not pushing away a certain religion, even though radical parts of Islam might have been responsible for 9/11. We don't push away all Muslims because the truth is, of the violent activities that happen in the world, most victims of radical religious terrorism are Muslim. Over 90%. That over 90% of the terrorist activities that happens are not in Europe or in the U.S., but are in the Mideast. And most of the victims are in the Mideast. So we can't say that we push away a certain culture and then we're going to be safe. We might feel better somehow, but it's a closing in of this truth, and we're not going to find the deeper truth for ourselves. We're not going to be able to find a world that works for everyone by closing in these thoughts. Instead, we open up and awaken. The next thing, this diversity recognizes that it opens us up to be for something and against nothing. When we're against something, that's also the closing off energy. To be against a religion, a culture, a people, or a situation. It can even be a particular person we're against. That's closing in instead of being for. We don't have to be for everything. There's definitely times we need to set a boundary. We need to say this behavior is not okay, whether in our personal lives or on a global level. I'm not saying we say everything is okay, but we are for something. Think of it when you were a teenager or teenagers, you know that sometimes the way you identify yourself is to be against something. And that's a natural process to do. You recognize things that you don't want to be. But you can't end there or your life becomes incomplete. You rebel against parents or against institution, against things that you don't want to be so that you can become something you're for. What's interesting about our own denomination, Centers for Spiritual Living, we've gone through a similar process. When we first began as Church of Religious Science, we were against traditional religions, against religions that we perceived as being judgmental or exclusive. But we can't stop there because rebellion, that against energy, is closing in. It's not opening up, and we began communities that weren't reaching out into the world. We were just doing our own individual work, and we know that compassion, it does make a difference to do it within, but it makes more of a difference to step out of this center, out of this church, and be more. And this is the way we're going to create a world that works for everyone. So we began the process about 10 years ago of changing our name to Centers for Spiritual Living, because we're for spiritual living. It's something we are for. It's not against anything, and it's what we are for. And collectively, this year, we are doing the theme of the world that works for everyone. And almost all the centers are talking about ways that we are creating a world that works for everyone. In addition to that, what my goal was this year with the board and other people is to create a vision statement for our center, to establish a clarity about who we are. So 11 of us gathered a couple weeks ago, and it was representatives from the board, from practitioners, from an ongoing vision group we have, and community members. And we began to look at certain questions and look at the visioning that be done. And the questions that we were asking were, what needs to be changed in the world? What are the major issues or problems? What of these issues are we called to address? In other words, what is ours to do? What are our strengths and assets? What is our dream end state? And what would success look like? Now, those questions alone took a couple hours to answer. And if you were part of that subgroup that helped meet that night and answer those questions, could you just please stand up so we could give you a round of applause? A few of us are there. So what came out of that? Like I said, we were seeking to have a vision statement. And a vision statement is basically why we exist. What is the overall picture? It's not anything it's not something, a goal where we try to achieve it, but it's something that guides us. And it also lets us know what we're not. It's what we are for. So the vision statement we've created came out of that we are an inclusive community for spiritual growth and compassionate action. For spiritual growth and compassionate action. It's designed to be simple, memorable, you remember it easy, and you understand it's an overall, it doesn't get to the specifics. Our mission statement will do that. But each Sunday we're going to begin to repeat this as an affirmation. So I'd like to read it together as a community right now. We are an inclusive community for spiritual growth and compassionate action. And then the mission statement is to be more specific and how we will accomplish this vision. So this is, we are creating a world that works for everyone by seeing God in everyone and everything, by practicing unconditional love, by developing spiritual practices of prayer and meditation, by embracing all faith, cultures, and orientations, by providing enlightened education, by living intentionally, by inspiring personal empowerment, by celebrating creativity and joy. And each of these ideas can be expanded out, like the one of living intentionally. It's talking about us living intentionally individually with our thoughts, but it's also talking about the way we treat our environment and the way we treat others with kindness and compassion. So there's multiple levels, but these are the ways we do it. Both. What I love about this mission and the vision too, it's not only talking about what we do at the center, but what we do individually as we leave here in our workplaces, in our social places, in our family places. We find this inspiration, we find the tools we need in the classes and the workshops we do here, but we go out into the world, and that's how we make the world a better place and how we move forward. So let's repeat this together. We are creating a world that works for everyone by seeing God in everyone and everything, by practicing unconditional love, by developing spiritual practices of prayer and meditation, embracing all faiths, cultures, and orientation, providing enlightened education, living intentionally, inspiring personal empowerment, and celebrating creativity and joy. Powerful, right? Let's give another round of applause for that. And I will put that up on the website and also give you some elaboration of that vision. There are some other things paragraphs we had to describe more about the world that works for everyone that we're creating. So powerful, powerful. Now we just have to go do it, right? So it's great. So the other thing diversity is that it awakens us to compassion and action. That's a clear thing about our faith and many other faiths as I connect with our Interfaith Council here in the city, as well as a number of people I'm connecting through. I just begun a program, Leadership Napa Valley, which is in class 30, and you were in class 18, so it's been 30 years it's been going. But the people that are involved in that are just all over the county making a difference in the world. So it's great to connect with them. And this is that compassionate action that's happening. And it's continuing to call. And what I know is this diversity is calling us to a greater response to the world with love and kindness.